Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I just read Fallen Angels by Mike Lee and it is not very good. Fallen Angels is advertised as a novel, but that is not what this is. What it actually is two completely unrelated novellas about the Dark Angels that alternate every chapter. One of these follows Zahariel from Descent of Angels after his exile to Caliban while he is trying to save the planet from a group of rebels. People have started to disappear and more worrisome, weapons have also started to go missing, so fearing what might happen, Zahariel tries to save the planet while Luther and Cypher remain strangely aloof. The other story follows Nemiel, also from Descent of Angels, as he and the Lion go on a mission to protect Forgeworld Diamat from the Sons of Horus. But as it turns out, the AdMech leader might be a traitor, so the story soon turns into 100 pages of boring boulder porn. But if you would like to know if Zahariel can save Caliban, why Luther is acting strange, or if the Lion will survive the war on Diamat, you will have to read the book for yourself. Or use common sense. Now the first thing I really hate about this novel is that, like I said, it isn't a novel. It is two short stories just mambo-jangled together into one book. At no point do these stories come together, there is no relation between them at all. There are no shared themes, there are no real shared characters, they do not affect each other at all. I mean, I could go on, but you get the gist of it. It makes no sense for these stories to be added together, and the way in which this is done is even stupider. Normally, when you have multiple storylines, this allows the writer to introduce changes in tension. Like one plotline might be in the middle of a fight, so then you go to another one that is dialogue heavy to break up the fight. Basically, you keep the reader engaged by making sure there is some variation in what is going on by always having the plotlines being different. Of course, the opposite is also possible, which can be done to highlight certain differences or similarities. Like you can have one scene following Angron and then another one following Sanguinius to draw parallels between their personality and or fighting style. Not that any of this explanation is relevant, as this book does none of that. It is as if someone accidentally dropped two novella drafts, swept up the pages and thought, oh well, this will be fine. Another major gripe I have with it is the copious amounts of boring boulder porn. I already don't like books with too much fight scenes, but this book especially suffers from it, because the scenes are sleep-inducing. One reason for this is the complete lack of stakes. Like, it's all nice and dandy that some troops might ambush Lionel or Luther, but you and I both know they will be completely fine. Same holds true for 95% of the other characters, locations, objects and so on and so forth. Now that doesn't have to be an issue, as long as you make the events cool. For an example, the fight between Sanguinius and Horus was a banger, even though we all know that Hogboy isn't going home. But this author really did the bare minimum in this regard and just describes each action in an almost autistic-like manner. Zero emotion, no metaphors or evocative examples, no real faction-specific highlights to speak of, and it just keeps on going forever. But that being said, I did quite enjoy the political parts of the Caliban storyline. There is a lot of discussion between various parties and none of them can really be trusted. Zahariel gets a very large burden on his shoulders and neither Luther, nor the Imperium, nor the Lion seem completely trustworthy. Meanwhile, the rebels and the Watchers in the Dark may not be as bad as they seem. It has intrigue, mystery, good dialogue, and seeing all these various opinions clash together was the one thing that I constantly looked forward while reading this novel. Another thing this novel did well, or at least to an extent, is showing the lack of people skills found in the Dark Angels Primarch. We frequently see him making questionable decisions in regards to HR, and Nemiel seems quite shocked at how bad a judge of character Lionel really is. That being said, I do feel like the novel could have done this a bit better, as it is really heavy-handed. Like some obviously untrustworthy guy shows up, Lionel just goes along with it, and then Nemiel spends like 3 sentences explaining to you how dumb his Primarch is. And finally, I should say I did also quite like the ending. Sure, it isn't perfect, as it makes both the Lion and Luther seem like morons, but without spoilers, it did put a very big smile on my face. So for the final rating, Fallen Angels gets 2 out of 5 stars. As a separate novella, the Caliban story arc is an okay story with some nice politics and mystery held down by boring boulder porn. But the Diamat plot really is just 150 pages of boulder porn with an acceptable ending. Also, I would half recommend skipping each other chapter to just read the Caliban story in one go, and then skipping the other way around to read the Diomed story in one go, as the quote-unquote mixing is horrendously shit in the actual novel. The Caliban plot is important for the events of Arcs of Omens though, so yeah, maybe still worth picking up for diehard Dark Angel fans or hardcore lore nerds.
You've reached the end of this Vox message. If this sparked your pleasure centers, make sure to anoint the subscribe button. Thank you for visiting Bathelloren. May the Omnissiah be with you.